Hello SDI students, my name is Scott Parr, I'm your instructor for this course, and this is about how to clear different types of firearms. I have a number of different types here. Perhaps not everything is represented, but most of what you will find, I have something here that would represent that type of firearm. So let's start with handguns. So first, the single action revolver. And I have a Uberti here, and this is a replica of a Colt single action Army. And the way that you clear this, first you open the loading gate, and now you can look into the cylinder. With modern single actions, you can rotate the cylinder at this point, but on this, because it's a replica of the original design, like the original design, you have to pull back to the first click on the hammer, and now I can rotate in only one direction. I can rotate it clockwise, and I can look at each cylinder, and that's what you should be doing, looking at each cylinder. And some revolvers have 6 shots, some have 5, some have more, so I always like to go a little bit further to make sure that I have looked inside each cylinder. Then we close the gate. Very important, we don't release the hammer from this position. It's very important once it starts its rearward travel that you pull it all the way back, and now we can ease it forward, and this revolver is clear. Okay, moving forward to the double action revolver. I have here a Ruger GP100, and the way that we clear this is first you need to depress the thumb piece on the left side of the frame, and the cylinder will swing open, and now I can look into the cylinder, and I can look and see actually all 6 of those chambers at the same time. So easy enough, this revolver is clear. This is a model 1911, which is a hammer-fired single action pistol. First thing you want to do is check to make sure there's nothing in the feed source, no magazine inserted. Now you'd remove it if there was one. I don't keep a magazine in this pistol. Most semi-automatic pistols will lock to the rear if you press up on a slide stop lever, and this is no exception. There are some that you just have to hold open, but most you can pull to the rear, press up on the slide stop on the left side of the frame, and that will lock it open. Now here I can look into the chamber. I can visually and physically check to make sure that there is nothing inside the chamber. I also want to double check and make sure there's no feed source, that this firearm is clear of any ammunition. Now I can release the hammer. On this particular type of firearm, you don't want to ease the hammer forward, so just definitely make sure that you have an empty chamber, point in a safe direction, and pull the trigger, and that is how we clear the single action pistol. Okay, next we have another hammer-fired pistol. This is a DASA, or double action single action pistol. It's almost exactly the same. We first remove the magazine. I remember to put one in for demonstration purposes this time. Push up on the slide stop lever, lock the slide to the rear. I can visually and physically check the chamber, double check to make sure that there is no feed source. This is clear. Notice that when I close the action that the hammer automatically decocks, and that's because the safety decock lever is engaged. If the safety were off, and we rack the slide, notice that the hammer is cocked, and by pressing down on the ambidextrous safety decocker, it will safely drop the hammer on this pistol. This pistol is clear. Okay, so next up we have a striker fire pistol, and this is what we're going to be dealing with in this course. As always, first thing we're going to do, magazine present, we take that out, lock the slide to the rear, exactly the same as the other pistols. I can visually and physically check the chamber and double check and make sure there's no feed source. Drop the slide, and hey, we have no manual safeties, no external hammers. Pretty simple. That is one of the attractions of this platform. Okay, moving on to long guns in no particular order. I have a shotgun here. It is a semi-automatic Remington 1187, and on most semi-automatic shotguns, when you pull the bolt to the rear, it will automatically lock open, and I can look in and visually and physically check and see that the chamber is clear, and I can also look at the follower and check the magazine tube from here. On some models, you can just push the elevator down. I know on this one, if I try to push the elevator down, it's going to drop the bolt, which is fine as long as I'm ready for it. Otherwise, I could lose a finger. And I can check the follower from that location as well. This shotgun is clear. And this is a break action shotgun, a Beretta 685. And the way that you open a double barrel break action shotgun is there is a top lever. We push that to the right and the action breaks open. You don't want to be rough and fling it open or slam it shut. Treat it with respect. And here I can look into the two chambers, physically and visually verifying that there is no ammunition present. There is no feed source on this. You just load from the breech, from the break action. And to close it again, we don't have to get rough. Just push that closed, and this firearm is also clear. Next, we have a bolt action rifle. This is a British bolt action rifle, and to open the action, you grab the bolt handle, lift up, pull back, and that exposes the chamber. And I can now visually and physically check this chamber, make sure that it's clear of ammunition, and the magazine, which is right here as well. I can look and touch that as well. This rifle is clear. Okay, next we have the AR-15. Very, very common. I'm sure you'll be seeing plenty of these. And there is a magazine in this firearm, so I want to remove that. I press the magazine release, and I pull the feed source out. To lock this to the rear, there is a bolt catch on the left side of the receiver. I press on the bolt catch, pull the bolt to the rear, and now I can look into the chamber, visually and physically check to make sure that there's no ammunition present. And the same thing, always poke a finger up into the magazine well and ensure that that is empty as well. This firearm is clear. Okay, this is a pump shotgun, and to open the action there is an action bar release lever, which will be on the front or the rear of the trigger guard depending on which model you have. This is Remington 870, it's on the front, and I pull the fore end to the rear and open the action, and I can look into the chamber visually and physically checking to ensure that it's clear. And I can look through, and I have a high visibility follower in the magazine tube, and I can also flip it open, flip it over and check it from underneath as well. Now you notice this also has a side saddle. Good to make sure that there's no ammunition in this as well, and you'll see this on other shotguns and rifles as well. But this shotgun is clear. Okay, so I saved my favorite for the last. This is an M1 Garand, my March of 42 Winchester M1 Garand. And it's semi-automatic, but different from many of the ones that you will see. When I pull the bolt to the rear on this, well, there is a dummy round and an end block clip. So there's an internal magazine on this firearm. And when the end block clip is loaded, this is has an 8-round capacity, and I'll be darned, that did not come out. We have to, wow, it's actually good that this happened. Interesting, interesting. So, the dummy round, when I pulled the bolt to the rear, remained in the chamber. This is why we do these checks, because even though I pulled the bolt to the rear, it should have ejected this, and it is a dummy round, but this could be a live round as well. So I'm going to have to manually extract this. So, well, I hope this came out good on the video. I probably couldn't do that again if I tried. So again, a dummy round. But again, I visually and physically check, and I see now the chamber is clear, and the magazine, internal magazine, is clear as well. Be careful if you're going to poke at this and push down that elevator, the shell elevator. Once it gets to the bottom, it releases the bolt, and you may or may not have heard of the term Garand thumb. That is how you get it. So anyway, this firearm is clear. Okay, well that was actually a lot of fun. Pulling a bunch of guns out of my safe. Some of these I haven't shot in a while, and going through how to clear them. Kind of interesting, and you notice that it's actually pretty simple. You're doing essentially the same thing regardless of the platform. You're removing the feed source if possible. You're opening the action, you're checking the chamber and any feed source to ensure that it's all clear of ammunition. And if you do that in your assignments, you're not going to have any issues. If you have any questions, as always, reach out to me and ask. That is what I'm here for.